Are you concerned about global warming? Are you worried about pollution of water, running out of resources? Just too many gosh darn people everywhere? Well, you're in luck. Today we're going to talk about are humans meant to destroy the earth? This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Dan. I'm here with my buddy Randy. What's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny.
So you came up with this topic, which is a good one. I'm actually really interested in this. But why did you come up with this?
Well, it's interesting because recently I've heard some conflicting things. So like okay, but before we get into actually the conflicting things,
All
I mean
right.
it's almost like common knowledge right now that humans are destroying the earth. Like,
Yeah.
I mean just to be evidenced by COVID when like all human enterprise shut down, the world got better. Like animals were seen all
Did,
over the
did
place
you
once
hear
again.
there was a
Yeah.
city in India where for the first time in 30 years they were able to see the mountains in the distance because the smog was so bad and the car stopped. And I was like, could
Yeah,
you imagine? Dude, you could have lived there for 29 years and not know there was mountains.
that's
You're right
crazy.
over there.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. Yeah. So, like, by all measures, humans are destroying the earth. And
And
kind of like,
if people are like, whoa, let me just point out that there is plastic particles in our blood, in fish, in every animal, in the ocean, yeah. So just on the aside.
yeah. And so it's like we talked a few weeks ago about like what's meant to be is meant to be. So is it really, are humans really, because like you can argue against it, but like humans are destroying the earth. So then are humans supposed to destroy the earth? Like, is that the purpose of humans? And maybe the
You know,
Terminator is coming to destroy humans to save the earth.
that is a good question because that whole thing, it is what it is, and you have to accept things as they are. I was thinking about that too because it is interesting because it's like, well, what does that mean for all the bad things that have happened? Like, I mean, look, yeah, we can point to like the Nazis and the war and stuff, but like if that stuff didn't happen, my parents probably would never have, existed in the state that they did, and I might not be born, right? Or didn't get eradicated, none of us would have a chance to walk the earth. So like, what does it mean to accept things as they are? And then, like you said, right? Are we like, is this what meant to be? I mean, can the world be any other way?
Dude, I think about that all the time because in America,
Yeah.
like, and also in France, I think they call it the 30 glorious years, the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Les Trente Glorieuses, which is what the French called it. But
It's a good word for
basically,
it, though, or a
yeah,
good phrase.
but like those were the years of like life was amazing. Like you look at any movie from the 50s or the 60s or even up to the 70s, like it was awesome. I mean, just like
Everybody's smiling, drinking all
everybody
the time.
smiling, like you had a brand new Chevy Bel Air, like or the 60s and 70s, just free love, rock and
Literally
roll,
everything
everything.
opened into a bar.
Yeah,
Everything.
everything. And so like, but that wouldn't have come about without World War II and the atrocities of that.
That is true. It was World War II that got us out of that got us out of the Depression and all, or it was one of those, of course.
Hmm.
But then after that, we had that huge boom because you have all these factories, and yeah, it is interesting when you think about it that way. Well,
So
that's the
here,
trick of it, though. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, what
okay,
were you gonna
so
say?
here's the thing. When there's like two completely opposite narratives going on, it makes me think both sides are full of shit because we
Oh
spell
yeah.
here. So okay, so like okay, on the one side, I was listening to this book that I read like 15, 20 years ago, Your Money or Your Life. And I was like, I can't wait to read that again because I'm in a different place financially. Like it'll help me kind of uh find the value in what I'm doing and not so much go after money. Well, anyways, so there was this part in the book where she's talking about our consumerism is destroying the earth. And there's this consumer day where like a certain percent through the year, we go through all the natural resources of the earth produced that year. And that's getting like it started out in like December and then November, October. So like we're clearly blowing through the resources faster than ever. So like there's this one narrative where we're destroying the whole entire world, going through all the resources, nothing left over. But then you hear the other side, this underpopulation thing, where like it's critical to have children because all of a sudden the world's going to be underpopulated with humans. And it's like, okay, those both can't simultaneously be possible.
Absolutely not. No.
And like both
Yeah.
sides are very, very adamant that they're correct.
Well, it's crazy too, because I forget what the numbers are exactly, but it's something like, each person in the US consumes something like 60 times the amount of resources that like a person consumes in like Africa or something, right? So like, yeah, the more people you add here too, it's worse in a sense because you're using more. But yeah, I mean that is interesting because you get these two narratives that are telling you two totally seemingly contradictory things. And we're taught, I mean, from a young age, right, that there's not enough. We're taught scarcity and that you have to go out and get it, right, for yourself, and that like everybody's got to hoard because you
You
don't
got
want
to
to run
get
out
it
of
before
stuff.
everybody else. You got to have
Yeah,
trillions of dollars so that it
yeah,
doesn't matter if they
they
don't have
can't have
any.
it.
You got to have trillions because that
You,
way,
you need all of it.
yeah.
Yeah. They can live on 10 cents a day. Screw them. You need all the money, and then you build your bunkers, and then you get
Well,
your
the
security.
awesome thing I love, like the part that I love about that is like you go to any of these impoverished countries, on average, they're happier than any westernized rich
Yeah,
country.
because they're
Yeah.
not seeing advertisements 24/7. They're not on social media comparing themselves to everybody else because there's nothing to compare to, right? Like, I mean, I think that is a big
They're
factor.
not busy collecting something that you can't have enough of. Like
Well, exactly. And
there's
then,
no enough to money. Actually, that was the one good part of the book. Literally, they polled everybody in the audiences of their things, and like people would make amounts from like next to nothing all the way to hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars.
yeah.
And they asked all of them, how much are you happy and how much money do you need to be happy? All of them were not happy, and they needed roughly about 50% more money to be happy. It didn't matter,
And
didn't
then,
matter
and
what
then
their
when they
income
get there,
was.
they're going to need about 50% more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing because we started using this metric that's in a sense measures everything, but itself is unmeasurable. Money and like having money. Because there's always gonna be somebody that has more. You can always look around and be mad at. And I think that's really the sad part is like it forces us to constantly look outside ourselves at others and compare ourselves to them. And then we're looking for things to find that they have more than us, right? I mean, we're literally looking for it. So it's really a bad place to be in for happiness. But let me bring up something that's going to be totally seem off topic, but I think it'll bring us back. Hope we'll see. So you remember in Nietzsche the eternal recurrence, right?
Remind me.
Okay, that's fine. So he has this thought experiment in the gay science, but he says, I'll give you the shorthand. But he says, imagine one day like this demon steals into your room and he says to you, he says, this day and every day before it and every breath and everything you've ever done, both in the past and the future, you're going to live again and again for eternity. So the eternal recurrence is the idea that what if life repeats eternally, but the same exact thing over, nothing changes. I mean, he says every breath, every sigh, whatever. And then the point of this thought experiment is he says, Nietzsche raises the question, he says, has there ever been one moment in your life where you've said yes, where you've affirmed life? And he says, if you've done, because everything's connected, everything, like we are who we are because of everything that happened in the past, including the past before we were even born, and all that stuff determines the future. Well, then if that's the case, you affirm everything. You affirm past, present, and future if you affirm one moment, right? Because you say yes to this whole thing existence. And so I always like that. And that kind of really hits on that, like things are what they are, right? And accepting what is. But he does this nice twist where I think like he also points out that like we are what we are because of everything that came before us. If you change one thing in the past, you change everything. So if you say like, oh, it would be so much better if I could go back and kill Hitler, right? Because everybody loves to talk about that if you had a time machine. Well, you probably wouldn't exist the second you killed him. You would fundamentally change the world, right? Like if you stop the asteroid from hitting the dinosaurs and wiping them out. So he raises into question. It's not about loving the past, but accepting it. And one of his claims is like, if we can be those people that say yes, we make the past worthwhile in a sense. Like even though all this stuff might have happened, it was worthwhile because people like us exist. So it's a really nice way of thinking about moving forward, I think, or thinking about things in this way. I don't know if that helps, but
That does. That's a good one. Uh, I was actually thinking kind of about that whole like if you change something, how would it change now? Because like when I was a
the
kid, when
butterfly effect.
yeah, so when I was a kid, Jurassic Park came out, and really awesome movie, good book. I got the book when I was a kid, but then I'm not sure how it happened, whether I spilled it or somebody else spilled it, but like somebody spilled a bunch of either like lick some drink. They spilled it on the book. And
Okay.
like it basically
Yeah.
destroyed the book to where it was just like
Yeah.
it sucked to read. And I wanted to get
It gets
another
really
copy
hard
of
when
it.
the real.
Yeah. I wanted to get another copy so I could read the book, but like I was a kid, my parents didn't want to spend money on me. It wasn't important to them. And so they didn't get a book. And like literally for the past 30 some years, I've been like, like
But heard about the book.
yeah, butthurt about the book. So I finally realized that I'm an adult and I can take care of my own needs now. And
You
so
could go buy it.
I bought myself a book. And so I just finished reading it. I know, right?
It
But
was
it
a
was,
good book though.
dude, it was like
Yeah.
awesome. It was awesome to be able to take care of my own needs and to like read the book because it was really good. I mean, it was a really, really good book. And I was like, man, I wonder like how my life would have been different if I actually read that book when I was a kid. Because it was like, it was really good and it was different from the movie. And it was like, it was,
You might have went into archaeology. Who knows? Or
who
like
knows? I
dinosaurs,
could have been a
right?
veterinarian for dinosaurs, you know?
Could have been. You could have
But
started raising dinos. Who
exactly.
knows?
So like interesting.
Yeah.
But this is also another thing. So like everybody's so concerned about humans are destroying the earth. And that's BS. Humans are destroying, if anything, humans and maybe some other
Yeah.
species. Because the earth has
Yes.
been here for hundreds of millions of years. Dinosaurs existed for hundreds of millions of years. Humans have been here for a blip on
Yeah.
the
I
time
never
scale of
understood that.
everything.
Like, yeah, nature will reassert itself. Something will come after. Just like when the dinosaurs wiped out, you didn't get more dinosaurs, right? You
Mm-hmm.
got a totally different planet, essentially. So, like, yeah, the world will theoretically move forward without us. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue, but I think that's the funny thing because we say we're destroying the earth, but we forget that like we're destroying our chances of humanity making it on the earth. That's what we're doing. And like yet, and even though that should motivate us to make changes, we've done nothing. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
funny. Actually, like every time I teach environmental ethics, it's just depressing because I have to like read all the stuff about what's going on and how nobody's done anything, and it's sad. But you know the Paris Climate Agreement, and now all the countries agreed to lower their emissions by X number. Well, they were self-reporting. So when they met again the next time, they all lied. All of them lied. And it
Nice.
came out afterwards that they all lied because none of them wanted to look bad. But, they all did the thing of like politicians were like, well, we didn't hit it, but like, we'll just say we did, and then we'll get there
Uh-huh.
quickly. We'll
Yeah.
fix it kind of thing. Yeah, and it's just like, and it's funny because it's like that's the mentality we have, right? We're so focused on the now and getting more right now and that greed that we can't see 5 months in the future, a week in
Mm-hmm.
the future. I mean, look at it, look how we treat stock markets and companies. They have
Mm-hmm.
to constantly, it's there's a was it social ecology talks about this idea of grow or die, that we live in a culture that believes that if companies don't grow, they will die, and they have to have this wild
Mm-hmm.
expansion. It's totally unsustainable.
Yeah.
You can't do it, right? I mean, we see the
The only
results of
thing that
that.
grows or dies is cancer.
Yeah,
And it's
literally,
like,
right?
but that's the business model for companies. Cancer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how we we structure ourselves as like a cancer on the world. I mean,
Hmm.
it's funny. Look at like this whole thing with like electric vehicles, right? And was like, oh, they'll say first of all, you have to drive those things for like 10 years before they're actually compared to a regular gas car, like carbon,
Hmm.
there's a benefit to the carbon thing, because people forget you gotta make them and all. And all the battery, all the heavy metals and stuff we need for batteries. Now they're talking about harvesting the nodes off the ocean floor. We have no clue what's going to happen if we do this.
Hmm.
But we need resources.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
gotta use that stuff.
It's pretty freaking nuts. I also don't worry too much about humans destroying the earth because we kind of live on like a as needed
Borrowed time.
basis. Yeah, well, yeah, of course. But but also like it's we always do things like last minute. Like you were
Oh yeah,
mentioning,
totally.
we have a hard time, 10, 20, 30 years in the future. But if there's a pressing need, then what has to happen, happen. And also like I think technology by the time that things get really critical will be a lot different than it is now. I mean,
Well,
look at the advances that we're making now. So this whole concept that like we're going to destroy the world, yeah, maybe, but maybe by the time we get to that crux, we'll have the technology to solve it.
you point out two things I think that are a big problem whenever you do like I talk about these issues. And I think environmental ethicists struggle with this all the time, which is, you know, if you ask anybody like, do you want a good world for future generations? They will individually say yes, right? Everybody hopes that the world will be nice for future generations. The problem is when you raise that question against present problems, no one cares, right? Because like it's more, my coffee this morning is going to be more important to me than future generations. You know what I mean? Than like hypothesizing about some future. So that's a problem. And I think everybody thinks that way about technology. We all think there'll be a Hail Mary at the end when we need it. Like, no matter what happens. I think the problem for a lot of people that think about this a lot, like the environmental ethicists and stuff, is that they want a world where everybody works together. You know what I mean? Because like we could
Hmm.
do, I mean, think about it. If we work together, we could solve all these. Nobody would be hungry. There wouldn't be any problems. But the problem is we operate under scarcity, and individuals and countries do. So we're all like fighting each other for stuff instead of collaborating. And I think that's like the biggest problem. So we're stuck in that position of, well, hopefully technology will come out later and fix it.
Hmm. Well, there's also
Yeah.
this whole thing about can we actually observe that we're having this effect on the world? So we say that, greenhouse gases are the cause of global warming and everything like that. Well, there weren't really greenhouse gases before the ice ages and the hot ages that they had before. That we weren't producing them at least, but they still
Well,
had these
it wasn't,
fluctuations in temperature, and it caused ice ages and it caused hot
well,
periods in the Earth.
yeah, anthropogenic climate change just means, it means like, it doesn't mean human causes. I mean, it does mean human cause, but it really means like, think of it more as like human enhanced, maybe, if that makes sense. Like, yes, the Earth goes through cycles, but we're speeding it up.
Well,
And
because faster
that's
is
probably
better.
not, yeah, right? Getting it done now. Don't wait till next quarter.
I don't want
Get
to
those seeds
wait.
boiling right now. We can
I
probably do it
don't
if we
want to
put our
wait.
collective effort.
I
I
know.
know. But I think, yeah, I think that is it too. It's like, it's that idea too of like, yeah, I mean, we don't wait either, right? Nobody
Hmm.
wants to wait. But yeah,
We're
we are, I mean, we're contributing, right? We definitely are. We're burning all kinds of stuff, but like, it is hard to say because you're right. I mean, the Earth's gone through cycles in the past. I mean, it has. That's
hmm
absolutely true. There's times in the past where it was super hot on the Earth everywhere. But the question is, like, I think the question we have to ask ourselves is, what'll that do to us and our longevity? And do we care about it? I mean, but
hmm
that's always the hard thing because you're asking people, are you willing to make sacrifices now
Well, we know the
to
answer.
improve things later at
We
some
know the
distant
answer.
future?
No.
Yeah. Everybody says no because they're like, well, I might be dead. So who gives a shit about those people? Or,
Exactly.
exactly, right? Or like I said, like even if you have kids like that, future generation thing is hard for people to process. It's hard to imagine 100 years from now. I mean, that's like what? That's like 4 generations or something. So I think it is like this is the problem we're in. Like, and we have people running the world that are like basically a foot out of the grave. So
Yeah.
like, what do
I
they care what
mean,
the hell they do? I mean, nothing's
yeah,
gonna affect them.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it comes back to the question, are humans meant to destroy the Earth? Because if we're doing it, wouldn't we then be meant to do it?
This is also the weird question too, because we're natural beings, right? We exist. One of our features is adaptability and reasoning. We can change things. What good or bad, I don't even know if that makes sense to talk about. It just is. We've done it. And here we are now. If we evaluate it's bad, we can change it. It's just up to us, right?
And also based on science, the conservation of matter and energy, we technically can't destroy anything. So
No, something will be here.
yeah, so we
Maybe not
can't
us,
we
but
can't really destroy us or Earth because we'll just be into something else.
what I always about this problem is why it's so hard for people to grasp with is that there's so many, even with everything we know, there's so many unknowns that it's like it's so easy to get lost in that fog of like, well, because it's like, I don't know all these things. Like I don't know what happens after death. I don't know, you know. So if we do die, is there another transition? So does it matter? Like, I don't know if we're supposed to, it's hard to know these things. And like, so it's hard to kind of imagine like what we should be doing, I guess, differently because we're already doing this. You only have the world that you live in. But that's why I've always liked Nietzsche's eternal recurrence because the idea is like, we'll live in a way where like you can say yes, you can affirm it, whatever that is. And I think I like that because it's like, at least then as an individual, you know, you're focusing on saying yes to existence, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's a good way to end it.
All right. Well, right there. That
The
sounds
world,
good.
that is.
So the world, yeah, it is ending. It's gonna end eventually. Well, it's always funny too, because right, the sun's gonna burn out one day. I mean, then all this is gonna be gone,
Dude, and
you
the
know?
Earth is just the teeniest little speck on the teeniest little star in some teeny little galaxy in the middle of nowhere that nobody cares
We've
about.
talked about this before, but reading sci-fi is so because you start to like you start thinking about all these like the reality of the universe, and the more you dwell on that, the smaller and smaller and smaller this planet looks. It's crazy. And like,
Yep.
you talk about our impact, it's basically nothing. What could we possibly do to hurt, supernovas and black, it's like nothing. So,
Hmm.
so there you have it. Are humans destroying it? Doesn't matter. Apparently not.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. What can you do? Really, what can you worry about? Honestly, nothing. Just accept it for what it is and be happy with
Well,
it.
okay, so here's the thing. Like, if it
Yeah.
does concern you, you just do the best you can, what's in your control. And that's it, because that's all you can ever
Like
do.
that's it, right? Do what you can do, and you've done your part, and then you can be
Yeah.
happy with yourself and sleep at
You
night.
start
Yeah,
living a
exactly.
completely sustainable life and don't throw out anything. Have fun.
Yeah, enjoy yourselves. We're gonna keep all of our throwaway plastics and our convenience.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh God. Well, so there you have it. The Existential Stoic Podcast. Are humans meant to destroy the earth? If you like this episode, check us out on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. Please like, subscribe. Subscribe. It helps us out a lot. If you could leave a review, that would be awesome. We'll be back later this week with another episode. Until then, later, Randy.
Later, Danny.